First things first, host. So let's just talk KD. I don't really buy legacy game stuff. I think, like I heard that for LeBron so many times. Oh, legacy. And it's like he's a top 1 or 2 player ever. Let's move on. Kevin Durant is one of the great offensive players ever. He's got titles. He's got MVPs. He's outplayed, some would argue, LeBron in big games. But KD was so great last night. There are those that are saying maybe it was a legacy game. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I don't think KD had anything to lose last night, but I do think he had a fair amount to gain if he gave us a transcendent performance, and he gave us more than a transcendent performance. It's the second most points he's ever had in a playoff game, off by 1 of his career high. It's the second most rebounds he's ever had. It's the most assists he's ever had. He did it all in the same game. And the most impressive number is not the 49, the 17, or the 10. It's the 48. Playing all 48 minutes when, of this generation, the only guy you've been able to rely on doing that in these spots is LeBron, who I think it's fair to say has a very different body and build than Kevin Durant. Colin, it's one of the most impressive playoff games any wing has played in the history of the league. I went through the archives this morning. I think it's better than any playoff game Larry Bird ever played. Larry had an unbelievable Game 7 against the Pistons. I think this was better. I think it's arguably better than any playoff game Kobe's ever had. And for Durant, the reason that it adds to his legacy is because we've never really seen him in this spot where he is the superhero that is outgunned and outmanned. He's only played 2 series in his career where he didn't have an MVP alongside him. The one when Russ got hurt in 2013 or 2014, and KD had to play against the Grizzlies without him and they lost. And 1 series against the Spurs without Steph in round 1 when the Warriors were clearly better. Seeing KD have to do the Jordan versus the Celtics, the LeBron versus the Warriors in 2015 with no Kyrie and no Kevin Love was enthralling. And I was there, Colin. It's the best in-person performance I've ever witnessed. And it does, when you start talking, Colin, about the best wings ever, you have LeBron, you have Michael, you have Kobe, you have Bird, and then Durant. A performance like that, I do think Durant could at some point start to elbow Bird off that wing forward Mount Rushmore. I think that is absolutely in play. He played a perfect basketball game last night.
So Kawhi is out for Game 5. I was telling the staff this morning, I said if players didn't have numbers, they had symbols, Kawhi would be a question mark. Personality, availability. Yeah. He's the, riddle wrapped in the enigma. When he's there, he's great. You're not sure if he's there. And this morning, I just said, everything I said yesterday about Kawhi and the Clippers doesn't count because the new information has completely changed. I think now, I don't even know if he's going to play the rest of the series, but Game 5 is going to be a landslide Utah win, in my opinion. Your thoughts on his injury going forward?
Well, so a couple things. One is, I think there might be some in the moment like, hey, today, now's the chance for Paul George to do what Kevin Durant did. It's totally unfair to Paul George. Kevin Durant's one of the 15 best players ever. Paul George, in my opinion, is not one of the 15 best players currently. You cannot ask Paul George to go into Utah and carry the team. They desperately need Kawhi. They're not going to have Kawhi, so they won't. By the way, they haven't won in Utah in the last 2 years with Kawhi. So I don't know that they were going to win this series even if Kawhi was healthy. Without him, they're cooked. I think so. I think they will lose tonight, and if he's not there for Game 6, I think they'll lose Game 6, certainly would lose Game 7 in Utah. I do think, however, Colin, and I think you and I might disagree on this, I think if they could have lost to Utah with a healthy Kawhi. If that happened, then I think Kawhi's free agency decision is a real decision. Man, we've lost in the round 2 twice. Neither time were we playing some juggernaut team. Is this the best place for me to win a championship? But if they lose because he's out after they'd won twice in blowout fashion, I think it's actually easier for Kawhi to stay with the Clippers and say, we would have won the title, but I got hurt. And so I think that obviously the best thing for them is he doesn't get hurt and they win. But if they were going to lose with him healthy and lose with him injured, I think for long-term purposes, it might actually be better for Kawhi staying with the Clippers that he's going to miss a game or two.
We're both dads, and I've joked before with kids, you have to constantly adjust your expectations. When my kids were 5, I thought they were going to be president of the United States. By 10, I was hoping they could be president of maybe a small company, and by 15, maybe they can be president of a frat house someday. But, you adjust your expectations. Sure. I look at Milwaukee.
That's right.
We've got to readjust what they are. They're not a great team. They're getting so many breaks. They still can't win with breaks.
They're the only healthy team left.
That's it.
It's unbelievable.
Kawhi left the East.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Kawhi left the East. LeBron left the East. The Celtics unraveled. Everybody on the Nets is hurt. They're still unable to win. What are they now?
Well, right now they are screwed. And I don't know. By the way, I don't think they're dead in this series because I don't know if KD can do that again. I don't expect Harden to all of a sudden be able to move. I was shocked he played last night. I was even more shocked he played 46 minutes. But that loss last night was so indefensible in every facet. Offensively, Giannis at the end of the game was clearly spooked out of going to the line, which is why he took the fadeaway jumper over Harden with 1:20 left instead of going to the basket. And I think it's why Barkley said it after the game. He fumbled the ball on that last possession because he was trying to rush so they wouldn't foul him. Also, James Harden is out there on one leg. How do you not attack him defensively? He's not a great perimeter defender, even a good perimeter defender, healthy. On one hamstring, it would have been every time they did it, they got a layup. I can't believe Budenholzer didn't have them do it repeatedly. And lastly, Colin, they didn't double team Kevin Durant once the entire game.
I know.
They only sent help his way a half dozen times, and KD took 0 jump shots when they sent help. If Jeff Green's going to beat you, Jeff Green's going to beat you. But the top 15 all-time player who is shooting flames out of his eyeballs, get the ball out of his hands. I couldn't believe it. And so if you're Milwaukee, you're like, all right, our superstar has a giant hole in his game, and our coach, year after year after year in the postseason, can't make the obvious adjustment. That's not a great place to be. Now, they are the only healthy team left, and maybe that is going to be what matters, and maybe Giannis will have a brilliant Game 6, but man, up 17 with 7 minutes left in the third, and the other team's got one guy. You can't lose that game, and they found a way to lose that game.
One quick football topic. The NFLPA, the Players Association, released their first influencer hot list in 2020.
Is this about Brady?
But time out. Okay, finish the story.
Why do you always do this to me?
Okay, so they looked at total engagements. Forget that Brady's number 1 in the league, which is kind of amazing because social media is a young person's game. He actually finished ahead of Patrick Mahomes, who is viewed as much cooler and lit. So what are you mad? What do you make of the fact that old man Brady, even in the young man's game, beats Mahomes? It's kind of fascinating.
Well, here's what I make of it. And I two things. And neither of these things are going to be very professional, but it was not professional of you to bring up this non-story just to troll me.
Number 1.
First of all, Joy, if in the remaining 2 hours and 20 minutes on the show, try to use some of your sources to dig into the actual metrics of this to see how many of these engagements are actually from Colin Cowherd. How many is it Colin liking and reliking and liking again Brady tweets?
Commenting
like, how much is that?
emojis.
That's first of all. Second of all, and this is the part that is not really fair to my friend Colin, but whatever. I'm not on a lot of sleep. I was at the game last night, and this is unnecessary. I would just like the audience to pretend for a moment that ranked number one by the NFLPA in social media engagements was not Tom Brady, was not Patrick Mahomes, was, say, Baker Mayfield. Would Colin think it's a good thing? Or would Colin be like, oh, Baker, more interested in the old Twitter twatter than he is the old quarterbacking? But no, his patron Saint Brady's doing it, so it's great. It's why he's the GOAT. It's so ridiculous. I can't believe you squeezed this topic into this. It's unbelievable.
But he makes a good point. If it was Baker, I may have been a little. Well, Tom's also got six rings, so you're allowed.
When you have
7, my bad, I lost count. 7
championships, you're allowed to do the Twitter twatter.
Okay.
Yeah, she makes a good.
Great.
She makes
nice yellow, guys.
Thank you.
You're right.
I missed the memo today. Tell me next time.
Not
See
do
you
this
guys.
on purpose.
Nick Wright, good stuff. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.